Fuck your bra, bitch, I bet I could.
Games still feels like new territory. Movies have existed for 100+ years. You can still create a masterpiece, but let's face it, the format has pretty much been written in stone by now. Games still feels like it's coming into its sort of adolescence. It feels like a frontier, and that makes it exciting.
It all began, like so many others in this industry. Back when I was 14, I got my first computer. I've always drawn, painted. I wanted to be a clothes designer. I wanted to be like a commercial artist or something like this. And then this computer came, and I was able to do everything. All these different various creative fields, and I just felt at home, and it just grew into a passion from there.
Really magical time for games, because that's where home games weren't up to the spec of the arcade games.
And I spent a lot of like quarters playing Pac-Man. That was when you put a quarter in the machine and then you'd play for 3 minutes and then you'd put another quarter in the machine. It was just fun. It was just a different way of playing, and it was the first game I ever played on a PC, and it was just like you could keep playing. You didn't have to put in a quarter. That was amazing.
My father brought home a build-it-yourself kind of computer. You could not just, load up the newest Doom and play it. There was nothing there, maybe Pac-Man. So even as a kid, we started programming. I don't think that happens anymore, right? Because you get an iPad when you are in first grade, and you get fancy, flashy graphics from day one. And even if you think, I want to do that, it's so hard, because the bar of getting just to the basic of what's considered a game today requires many people and experience. Back then it was like, let's see if I can get this pixel to move on the screen.
I mean, for me, my first computer back in the days, that was a Sinclair Spectrum. And I remember I got that one, and there was I started up, and there was one game, and then I played that, and that was boring. And then there was this, what's in the box, and then there was this programming book. Okay. And then and here we are today.
Yeah.
I remember the first 10, 15 years of my career. When I said, I make video games, the next question was, okay, and what do you make a living on?
You couldn't make a living on video games. That was just kid stuff, It wasn't a business back then, at least not in Denmark.
I did some crappy games that never saw the light of day, thank God. But my first publishing contract was in 1987. So I started rather early. I was actually still in high school, you would say, right? And I was just not old enough that I could sign the contract myself. So my first publishing contract, my father still had to sign for me. It's the first time you actually saw money for the work you invested, right? Most importantly, it also convinced my father that perhaps it's a little bit more than just a stupid hobby.
The games medium we have as close as you can get to total creative freedom. That is the essence of what we do, marrying sort of hardcore technology to the art and the desire to express something.
I think it's the allure of creating a world where people can get lost in. That we create alternate realities where people can interact with it.
We don't really control who 47 is. It's the player that chooses, is 47 a mass murderer? Is he a stylish agent that only kills his target? Or is he someone else? Is he a little bit of both?
It's a more complex, it's a more elastic system to do game story.
No matter what you write, you need all contingencies in a way. You don't know how it starts, you don't know how it ends, you don't know if the guy who's saying something important might already be dead. You don't know anything basically. So it's sort of like a quantum cloud of possibilities more than a regular narrative.
If you think about it, some of the most inspirational stuff these days for us is actually looking at some of these legacy YouTube videos of people who found super creative ways of playing our games, and we go like, wow, we didn't even think of that.
I remember our physics programmer optimizing for the fact that some players always take all the bodies on the level and put them in the same room and kind of pile them on top of each other, and then it still have to run at full frame rate. I mean,
because that will happen.
That will happen.
Yeah.
As an artist or as a creative person, there still should be something that I want to express. There's something creative that wants to get out, right? We feel, we want to tell a story.
It's not corporate, it's within people, right? And when we create moments where everything from music to the audio, to the characters we created, to the dialogue they have and the action that takes place, when all that stuff comes together, that's amazing.
You know, seeing afterwards that was something what we pulled off there, and we're proud of it. That is extremely fulfilling for me.
I think the gaming industry is going through a sea change. And we will come out on the other side of this where games are just a thing. Like TV is just a thing. Comic books are just a thing.
It's a generational shift, right? We need to be governed by people who grew up with video games to make it a truly accepted medium. We are on the edge of that because our first, prime ministers, chancellors and presidents are at an age that they actually grew up with video games and they know what this is about. That's true for every medium, it's not just games. Every medium needs this generational shift, and that's happening for us right now.
There's also realizing that something's happening with the way that we want to consume entertainment.
And the huge success of the TV series, basically, it's been over the last 10 years. I think that's going to rub off on the game industry. I think you're going to see more shorter installments that will feel a lot more like episodes of a television series where you might not every week, but maybe once a month or once every other month, you would get like a smaller sort of portion of a game that you can download and play.
You need to continuously evolve the product. And that's where I see us in the future, because we are not going to be like, here's the game, see you again in 3 years. It's another game, see you again in 3 years. It's not going to be like that. We need to be in a place where we constantly can communicate with the fans and where fans have a reason to interact with the game continuously. If we do that right, I think it's gonna be extremely exciting.